we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Gala webinar. We're going to start in a minute. We're just waiting for people to log in. We have a good crowd today, so please take your virtual seat and be patient for a moment. And as always, if you would like to introduce yourselves, you can do so in the chat. We would love to know where you are, where you work, what do you do. So feel free to write in the chat. Hey. Okay. Let's get started. So welcome to today's Gala webinar. My name is Isabella Massardo. I'm content strategist here at Gala. And today I'm very happy that I get to welcome back Viveta Jean and Valeria Cannavina with the second part of their future-proofing translation, CAT tools as backbone of AI integration. Their survey that they're running has up to now been very successful, many responders. So I'm very curious to know what the results are. And Viveta will tell you more also about the survey staying open for a little longer. So as you know, the webinar is going to be recorded, and I'll follow up with every participant once the recording becomes available on our website. There will be time for Q&A, I think. So feel free to write your questions as you think of them. You can write them in the QA box, or you can write them in the chat, whatever you prefer. So for now, I'm going to leave the floor to Valeria and Viveta.
Thank
Good luck,
you.
guys.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Okay.
So, first of all, before we go ahead with the introductions, I would like to thank everyone for joining today, for joining the survey. It was a very successful effort. We had more than 400 participants so far, and we keep this open longer because we would like to have a global representative sample and make these results meaningful to everyone. So thank you very much from the bottom of our heart, because we know that it's not easy to submit and participate in surveys, but this is really meaningful, and you will understand why based on the work that we're going to present today. That, by the way, it is preliminary results and preliminary work. So Valeria will share more later on. Just to start, thank you very much once again for being with us today. I'm Viveta Jean. I'm translation and localization industry specialist, and I have a PhD in translation and new technologies, adjunct professor at the Onion University, and head of translation solutions innovation at Intertranslations. And I'm honored to be also at the Gala board. So my main focus right now is to transform how global organizations deploy multilingual content through strategic human AI collaboration frameworks. And Valeria, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Viveta. So I'm Valeria Cannavina. I've been working in this industry for more than 15 years now. Different companies, different roles, and I currently work for RWS as a solutions architect. My main mission is to help organizations navigate the shift from the traditional workflows to more sophisticated human AI collaborational workflows. As Viveta said, we recently presented a first part of this webinar, where we co-presented the title of the webinar was Future-Proofing Translation, the CAT tools as the backbone of AI integration. And we basically explored how the CAT tools, in our opinion, remain the essential infrastructure for a responsible AI adoption. So today, at the end of the first webinar, we launched the survey, and what we are doing today is we are going to share some of the preliminary results. But before doing that, I was going to touch on some of the main points that we had um, during our first webinar. And if you
Valeria,
allow, yes, I'm
to
going to
have
share.
the
Yeah,
slides. Yeah,
yeah,
thank
I'm going to share that in a second. Okay. Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, everything's perfect.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So we already introduced ourselves, and what I was going to say, if in case you missed the first webinar, which by the way should be it's recorded, so it's still available in Gala. We explored how our industry is future-proofing the translation across, let's call them three key areas: the technology, the people, and the processes. So, first of all, on the technology side, we talked about how the translation landscape has evolved. So the CAT tools, in our opinion, are no longer just support software, but they're now at the backbone of any AI integration. We looked at where the industry stood back in 2020 and where we are now, and of course, what is coming in the next 2-3 years. So from emerging AI trends to tools like AI integration, readiness assessment matrix, it's clear that embracing the right technology mix is critical. When it comes to people, we really focused on how the roles in our industries are changing, what is the balance between the human expertise and the AI, and how this balance is shifting so fast. We are seeing now, for example, new roles emerging in the last 2 or 3 years. There are more specialized roles that before that they didn't exist in 2020 when the first survey was launched. And we also noticed that there is what comes out of this survey is a challenge in the growing talent gap. So it's no longer enough, let's say, to rely on traditional skill set, but we actually need to actively rethink on how to attract, train, and retain the talent. And finally, when it comes to the processes, because technology and people only work when supported by the right workflows and technology, we thought that we had to discuss and address at some point the importance of having a multi-stakeholder training approaches that of course needs to be moved beyond the simple onboarding tools and needs to be implemented like organization wide. It needs to be a more strategic approach and needs to really prepare the team for this ongoing transformation. So with these things in mind, we launched the survey, which is not going to be, by the way, the end of our mission, but is going to be just the beginning of a series of things that Vivek and I are working on, and we will address towards the end of the webinar. So the key points that we wanted to talk about today on the survey is basically just give you an overview of the profiles and demographic, what is the technology adoption as of today, how the perspective on the machine translation has changed since 2020, and how this has impacted also the relationship between the human and the technology. And then we want to basically wrap up on the future outlook. So what we think should be a follow-up of the survey, what are our key takeaways, and what we would recommend that we think is needed. to better support the industry where we work. I can't see the chat, so if there's anything, Vivetta or Isabella, just let me know if there's any questions or comment. I want to remind everyone that this is open, and any suggestions and comments are absolutely welcome. We need
Not
your
so
opinion.
We don't have any questions so far, but in case anyone in the audience would like to take part in the survey because you didn't, we're going to share the link again, and you're going to find it in the end of the webinar as well. But just in case you cannot stay until the end, we will make sure to share it in the chat space.
Exactly. Thanks, Vivetta. Okay. So before we dive into the specific of the organization and the industry that our respondents represent, we wanted to take a look first at the geographic distribution and the experience level that there are in the respondents have in the translation industry. So on the left, you have the first pie chart that shows where the respondents are professionally active. The largest groups come from Central Europe, for example, and then it's followed by North America with almost 19%, and Asia. Other regions represented here include, of course, the South America, then we have Africa, Australia, Northern Europe, and some Eastern Europe. Of course, the global spread highlights how, the international nature of our professional and how varied is the respondents demographically. On the right, when we asked how many years of experience you have in the translation industry, as you can see, there is a significant majority of almost 63%, with people that have more than 15 years experience. So it's very good news for us because it indicates that the samples that we have today is highly seasoned professionals. Meanwhile, of course, we have almost 19% with less than 2 years and 12% that falls into the 2 to 5 years range. But anyway, the good news, as I said, this is a good combination of global reach and deep expertise, which can only provide us with a strong foundation for insights that we are going to explore in the next slides.
I would like to comment on these demographics, that the fact that we had the majority were translators that participated in the survey so far. It is very indicative of how much they care about what is going on and where do we go, because there is a lot happening. And in reality, in many companies around the globe, they're not involved. They're not involved in the decisions. They're not involved in the training. They're only executing. So making their voice being heard, having their voice being heard is really important here. We have this opportunity, and I was really enthusiastic about it. Thank you, Valeria.
No, thank you, Vivetta. Actually, I was reading a bit of the chat before, and I was wondering how many people are from Central Europe, how many people are from North America at this very moment. And I could see we have a nice representative samples. Sorry for my voice. Also on the today live. So yeah, exactly what you said now, Vivetta. The next question that we asked was, what is the size of your organization? And exactly because of this first, let's say, wave of respondents were all solo practitioner. Like we had a lot of respondents that were basically linguists, post editors, freelancers, and it's almost 85% of the respondents, right? And then we had also some small LSP, mid LSP, and big LSP. But again, the majority is the solo practitioners. Interesting enough, I don't know why I was expecting probably something different, but when we asked the question about the primary industry that they serve, I was struck by the fact that lots of our respondents are working in the life science and medical sector. It's followed by the legal. And then we also had some respondents that are working in technical engineering, IT software, etc. So again, I think this gives already like some good data to work on as a first bunch of answers. Once we had defined our sample of the respondents, we basically started to ask questions about the technology, and we moved more into what is the relationship between you and the technology nowadays. And so we moved onto the what we consider the hot topics of the survey. So so in the previous survey, and I think it's confirmed again in this year's survey, that most language professionals continue to rely on well-established traditional translation tools. There is one clear leader dominating this field, and then there are other second-tier widely adopted platforms. I'm not mentioning the specific brand, if you allow me here. And then there are also there's also we notice like a niche segment that uses specialized platform or proprietary in-house system, typically within organizations that have heavily tailored workflows. And so now looking at this chart, when we ask the respondent what was the organization investment in the translation technology, how did it change since 2020 when we ran the first survey? So we've found out that like 30% said that there was actually no change, which could also mean that it was constant. It remained constant, the investment in the technology advancement. But some of them indicated that there was a moderate increase or a slight increase, but in general, there was an increase since 2020. And so this, if we look at this chart, and we have also other questions that we use to put together this data, of course, what this tells us is that many organizations have maintained their investment levels, but there is a clear upward trend in the technology adoption today. And so this trend further supports what are our other findings in the survey. For example, we found out that 70% of the respondents, they reported an increase in the use of machine translation. Another 35% said that they are now engaging in more specialized ways of doing post-editing, for example. And we know this is a trend, but it's nice to see it confirmed. There is a constant growing demand of post-editing, especially in the regulated industries, where some years ago it was probably no-go. There was absolutely no trust in AI integration tools when it comes with the regulated industries. And of course, there is also an 80% of respondents that said that they already use AI-assisted review processes. So we see this shift in the approach of the respondent from being a completely fully human automated workflow to a more AI collaboration, continuous localization workflow. So what does this all mean for us? It means that of course, the industry is adapting, maybe in some fields faster than others. In some subject, it's actually growing very fast, and that the AI integration with the CAT tools is indeed impacting the way um, translators work, their productivity, and it also impacting the processes that they touch, from the training to their everyday tasks. So the landscape is evolving, and we need to support them as a community to stay more competitive and offer the tools and the support that is needed, and show them how we can, of course, better leverage this technology. So always continuing with this trend of like asking questions on the AI adoption. What you can see in here, we ask what were the technology, the AI tools that you mostly integrated in the last years. And as you can see, the most common areas of investments for the respondents were neural machine translation, large language model, and automated QA tools. And then these are followed by the more uh, traditional or emerging areas like terminology management, speech recognition, content handling, and other custom tools that were mentioned in the survey. So this aligns with what we've heard from the respondents. So the investment in technology have been primarily focused on NT, LMs, and automated QA, and this of course reflect a clear shift toward more intelligent and scalable solution. And also, following the response, I don't know about you, Vivetta, but I was not surprised to see that the majority of respondents believe that the overall level of AI integration in their workflow is to be considered moderate, which means there is still a lot to be done. And only the 6% of the respondents says that they judge their integration as high. And I guess this might be representative of only very big corporations, which have more they have more resources in order to reach a very high level of integration. So Vivetta, with this, go ahead, Vivetta. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say, to continue what you stated, it's not only about the level of integration, but there is a great shift when we analyze the results of the demographics once again. And if we go back to slide 6, you can see that there is the solo practitioners and the translators actually. So in the demographics, we had a question that is not here so well analyzed. It's going to be in the next phase because these are preliminary. So we said, are you a translator or are you a post editor? And you would expect to see most of the translators saying translators, but they selected post editors, translators, post editors. So this shows that 5 years ago, probably they would say translators, but now they accept this role of post editor. They know what it is. We are there. It is something, yeah, it is to stay. It stays. It will remain in a way until we have something new. So this shift has already happened, and this is not anymore an innovation. So by saying that and by making this observation, I'm moving ahead with our next question, which was about which language pairs AI integration is driving notable improvements. And here it is slide 9. Okay, so here, based on the answers, we're going to examine where AI is making the most dramatic impact. And this data reveals some fascinating linguistic insights that will shape the future of our industry. What is the standout finding? English to Western European languages is absolutely dominating AI improvements at 34.7%, combined with Western European to English at 23.2%. We're looking at nearly 58% of all notable AI improvements happening within this linguistic family. But here's what this really tells us. Linguistic proximity matters enormously in AI performance. The closer the language structures, syntax, and the cultural context, the more effectively current AI models can bridge the gap. So we're not just seeing technology at work here, we're seeing the digital manifestation of linguistic relationships that have existed for centuries, by the way. The directional advantage is equally revealing. English as a source language consistently outperforms the reverse direction. So this is not a coincidence. It reflects the training data reality. Most AI models are optimized with English. This is not a secret as the primary source, which gives us critical insights for future development. But look at the opportunity landscape. Asian languages at 2%, African languages at 0.3%, Middle Eastern at 2.3%. And these are not considered to be limitations. These are massive market opportunities. The organizations that crack high quality AI for these language pairs, probably they will own the next wave of industry growth. So just to understand these results, linguistic proximity strongly correlates with AI performance. English-centric training data creates directional performance bias. Western European language pairs dominate improvements, 57.9% combined. Significant gaps in Asian, African, Middle Eastern pairs represent development opportunities. And let's see now about the workflow evolution and impact with our next questions in the next slide.
Yeah.
So here we talk about the integration of AI with CAD tools and how it affects the productivity and how it affects translation quality. So here's where the rubber meets the road. Actual impact on productivity and quality. These numbers should make every skeptic sit up and take notice. 47% of respondents report productivity increases when AI integrates with CAD tools, nearly half. But what's even more remarkable is the quality story. 23% see significant quality improvements, with another 15.5% seeing moderate improvements. But let's be honest about what we're seeing here too. 22.3% report a decline in quality, and 15.5% say results vary by language pair and content type. And this is not a failure. This is a realistic assessment. So what this data tells us is that success is not automatic. It's not enough to plug AI into your CAD tool and expect magic. The organizations seeing the biggest gains are the ones who have invested in understanding how to integrate these technologies effectively. So the main points that we keep is that we have strong productivity gains, 47% reporting increases, quality improvements significant but variable, results highly dependent on implementation approach, and reinforces need for strategic and educated adoption. We move on to the next question and the next slide, where the question is, what are the main challenges you've encountered when integrating AI with CAD tools? So let's address the challenges head on, because understanding obstacles is key to overcoming them. The biggest challenge is other, which tells us we are dealing with highly specific, context-dependent issues. But look at the consistent patterns: technical integration difficulties, training staff, quality concerns, and data security. These are not insurmountable problems, they are solvable engineering and process challenges. So what gives me a good amount of optimism is our confidence data. 44.7% of organizations rate their adaptation confidence at level 4 or 5. That's nearly half of our industry feeling confident about navigating future technological changes. Even the 35.5% at level 3 neutral confidence represents opportunity. These organizations are not fearful at all. They're waiting for clearer guidance. And that's exactly what research like ours provides. So the takings here are that we have challenges that are, if you could share the next slide, Valeria, challenges are primarily operational, not fundamental. High confidence levels suggest industry resilience. Neutral responses represent an education opportunity, and problems are specific and addressable through training and best practices. So now let's talk about attitude. Attitude was a huge thing in 2020. I also had a paper about the attitude and the connection of attitude with the productivity of translators. So this slide reveals the psychological landscape for our industry. And I think it's absolutely interesting and fascinating. CAD tools enjoy 83.7% positive sentiment. They are the beloved foundation of our workflows. But look at the LLM data. We have 39.8% positive, 39.3% neutral, and 20.9% negative. And this does not mean resistance to change. It is professional caution, just to take the positive side of it. So our industry is like saying, show us the value, prove the reliability, and then we will adopt. Machine translation sits right in the middle at 44.1% positive. After decades of evolution, MT has earned its place as a trusted, if imperfect, collaborator. So what I love about this data is that it shows our industry is not driven by hype. We're evidence-based professionals who adopt technology when it demonstrably improves our work. And now let's touch skills and training. What skills do you believe are the most important for translators in the AI era? Here's where we see the future of our profession taking shape. Critical evaluation of machine outputs ranks highest, and this makes perfect sense. In an AI augmented world, our value lies not in competing with machines, but in orchestrating them. Traditional linguistic skills remain, of course, crucial, and they are our foundation. But notice the emergence of technical aptitude with CAD tools, prompt engineering, project management. We're seeing the birth of the hybrid professional, linguistically brilliant and technologically sophisticated. The role evolution data confirms this transformation. 37.8% report more quality assurance responsibilities, 33.1% emphasize tech skills, and 25.9% see increased specialization. So we're not being replaced, we're being elevated to more strategic, high-value roles. So the main points are critical evaluation skills become premium capability, technical skills complement, and they do not replace linguistic expertise, professional roles evolving toward higher value activities, and industry developing hybrid skill sets, linguistic and technical. Now, what about the future outlook? The questions were, what do you believe should be the focus of future research on CAD tools and AI integration? And compared to 2020, how has your perception of machine translation post-editing changed? When we look toward the future, our priorities reveal an industry that's thinking strategically about sustainable growth. 34.4% prioritize human AI collaboration research. And we don't talk about choosing between humans and machines. We talk about optimizing the partnership. 19.2% focus on ethics and regulatory compliance, showing that we're building responsibly for the long term. The machine translation post-editing perception data is particularly striking on another aspect. So 57.1% have a more positive view of machine translation post-editing compared to 2020, combined with only 8.3% more negative. This represents a fundamental shift in professional attitudes. And this is a recognition that machine translation post-editing, when done right, represents a powerful productivity multiplier that maintains quality standards. So here, what we get is that industry prioritizes collaborative rather than replacement models. We have strong focus on ethical and sustainable development. MTP acceptance represents maturation of professional attitudes, and research priorities align with practical implementation needs. Now, another question. Compared to 2020, how has the role of CAD tools in your organization changed? This is the final and the most powerful insight. 30.1% say CAD tools have become more central to workflows, while 55.9% say their importance has remained stable. But that stability, it does not mean stagnation. This is the important part of the interpretation of this pie. It is foundation. CAD tools have evolved from translation aids to integration platforms. So they're no longer just helping us translate. They're becoming the orchestration layer for complex multi-technology workflows. Only 2.3% say CAD tools have become less important. This tells us that rather than being disrupted by AI, CAD tools are absorbing and channeling AI capabilities. They're becoming the conductor's baton for our technological orchestra. So what you keep, CAD tools transitioning from tools to platforms. Stability indicates foundational role rather than stagnation. Minimal displacement, 2.3% suggests successful evolution. Tools becoming integration and orchestration layers. And by saying that, we wrap up this part of the preliminary results that we would like to share with you. There is a lot. I think there were more, like 15 more questions that we have to analyze and share with you. And this will be done in the next months and in the upcoming events with papers, with the LinkedIn post, and for sure you will all be aware of what's going on. But let me wrap up with 3 transformative insights from this research so far. First, the industry is not being disrupted, it's being upgraded. We're seeing intelligent adoption, strategic investment, and role elevation rather than replacement. So I think that this discussion is at the end once and forever. Second, success is not about the technology you choose, but how thoughtfully you integrate it. The organizations thriving are those who understand that the AI amplifies good workflows and exposes poor ones. And third, the future belongs to the hybrid professional, those who combine deep linguistic expertise with technological fluency. CAD tools are not just surviving the AI revolution, now they're becoming its central nervous system in a way. So the conversation starts tomorrow. Your transformation starts now, because whatever has been discussed today is not an innovation anymore. So we go for tomorrow. And it is very important for me to invite you to continue spreading the word about this survey. It is still open. So the next steps is that we're going to analyze the results in 1 month, probably, that we will close this survey. Please help us disseminate this to linguists, managers. There was not enough participation from managers so far. We will try to balance in a way our sample. And the next step is that we're going to present first phase a maturity tool, meaning a tool that is going to diagnose where we're standing in this digital transformation phase, what we miss, what are the steps that we need to do. And this is not going to be a tool for only for LSPs. It's going to be also a tool for linguists and for individual companies. So it is beneficial for everyone. Second step, once we know where we are, the second phase is that we're going to develop a tool for a fair compensation model. This is our vision with Valeria. We have already started working on this, and it's going to be presented in the phase 2 of our work and our research. So you will be informed about next actions, and you understand why your participation in the survey is really important. This is not research for papers work. It is a research that is going to have a practical implementation value for everyone, because we hear your voices. We know that nothing practical happens, that we all talk theory. So we're here to fight for it and talk practice. So last slide, we share with you once again, if you use your mobile, here is the scan, the QR code, and you also have the link, because maybe it's more convenient to use the link and participate in the survey, whatever you prefer. You will find posts on your profiles sharing this link in the comment. So feel free to participate and spread the word about it. At this point, we would like to thank you once again for being with us. We hope you find this attempt and this effort valuable for the industry. This is why we're part of this association, to make things happen and to take the extra mile. And we're here for you to start discussion. We have 15 minutes for questions, for anything that you would like us to prioritize in this research, for anything that you would like to share with us for future research. So let's talk. And Valeria, you can share anything you would like to add.
Stop sharing. I think we can have a look at the chat, Iveta, and let's see.
There is There is a question for you guys in the chat.
Yeah, there is a question from Cedric. Do we know the part of solo practitioners working with LSP agencies compared to those who do not among the respondents? And here, Cedric, you mean practitioners like freelancers working for direct clients and localization departments? Is this the question? Okay, I don't think that we have these separately. They're
No,
all
because
in
they were
one.
anonymous, yeah. So we
Mhm.
can't see who is working for who. We just know if the respondent identify themselves as freelancers or as an LSP, for example. That's the only distinction that we made.
Mhm. But Cedric, if you can share, does this bring, if we had this separation of things, would it make sense? Would you have an interesting information just to know to include it in the future research, you know? Okay. We will be here to, in case you're writing. And we can go to the next one. I think it is, thank you for these first results, very interesting. In my opinion, the third aspect to stress in this future-proof hybrid role is specialized knowledge. Yeah, of course. This is a very important aspect to stress. It is all about specialized knowledge right now. Thank you very much for highlighting this, Hannah. And there is one more.
Yes, there's another question.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any insights into how the CAT environment is going to integrate document level contextual Gen AI MT? Valeria, do you
I
have
don't think
any idea?
we didn't ask any like such a specific question. We didn't ask that in the survey, and the
No.
reason why we didn't do that is it kind of brings back the Anna's question that yeah, the industry is going into more and more specialized role, but we did want to have a samples and questions that would be representative of the majority of the linguists and the respondents, right? So having two specific questions like so in-depth questions about Gen AI or very specific about like this question how they integrated document level. It wasn't what we had in mind when we did the survey. But Hannah, if you want to have a discussion on that, or if you think that, especially now at the light of what is going to be our follow-up for the maturity model or the compensation model that we want to build, if you think this is also one of the things we should keep in mind. Again, as Vivetta said, any feedback is more than welcome, and really feel free to reach out to us because I'm sure in this huge community of Ghana, and we can we can we can absolutely add things and feature we didn't think of before. So I see this survey, Vivetta, I don't know, I know we share the same feeling as a sort of joint effort between all of us in here.
Exactly. This is how I feel. I share this feeling, and I would like to thank Hannah for this question because the question is at the same time an answer.
Yeah.
An answer
Just the different
because
levels
it's
of.
going to be, we're going to be dealing with this document level contextual thing while dealing with our conversation model. It is towards that direction in a way. And so, yeah, I think that this macro context is the future. It is technical, but it is very future embracing, your question, Hannah. And once again, thank you very much. I know that we're going that, I think it is technicalities that we need to, to, to absorb more of the document level strategy in the CAD tool and Gen AI MT stuff. So thank you very much. Any other, I don't know if we have time, but if there is any other question, because you have a good combination of more technical person and more human person, like, you know, machine translation, post-editing. I would say Valeria is the machine translation part and I am the post-editing part in a way. So you can ask anything around it. But thank you very much.
Okay, I don't see any other questions, but maybe Viveta and Valeria, you want to put your emails in the chat so that people can reach out to you.
Yeah.
Should they
Thank
have
you.
any questions or suggestions or want to know more about your work, or simply connect.
Yeah.
And thank you in the meantime to everyone who attended. Thank you to all those people who completed the survey. We hope that we can double the number of respondents. That would be wonderful, but we'll see. This is the last webinar here at Gala before the summer break. For July and August, we don't have any events planned, but we already published the program for the Gala Academy Q3 starting in September. So I'll add the link in my follow-up email in case someone is interested, and it's all, of course, about AI, but this time AI and audiovisual. And there is also something about post-editing with AI in audiovisual. So that should make Viveta and Valeria also happy. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great summer if you're in the summer part of the world, and have a mild last month of winter if you're down under. We'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.